książkowe. Wystawa została przywieziona właściwie w 100% razem z jej kuratorem ze Stanów Zjednoczonych. Odbyła się po raz pierwszy na MIT w Bostonie i składa się z 4 gier oraz odpowiadających im książek. Mianowicie są to adaptacje autostopem przez galaktykę, wybranych sztuk Sofoklesa, wybranych sztuk Szekspira oraz Wielkiego Gatsby'ego. Przez następne 3 tygodnie będą mogli Państwo grać w te gry i korzystać również z towarzyszących im książek, wcielać się w bohaterów, narratorów albo jakieś inne bardziej przewrotne formy podmiotowości, wysnutej z książek, które były kanwą dla stworzenia tych gier. I w otwarciu wystawy towarzyszyć nam będzie Nick Montfort, jeden z kuratorów, który powie parę słów na temat samej wystawy, na temat związku literatury z grami komputerowymi, ze szczególnym uwzględnieniem jego ulubionej gry, a mianowicie autostopem przez galaktykę. Zapraszamy.
Thanks very much. So I'm really glad to be here, to be back in Krakow, and to tell you a little bit about the exhibit. I don't want to take up the valuable time that you could be using playing some of these nice games and comparing them to the literary text upon which they're based. But I do want to give a little bit of context in terms of what I was thinking, and specifically what Clara Fernández-Vara was thinking. She's the main curator of the exhibit when we put it on at the Hayden Library back in Cambridge, Massachusetts at MIT. And Clara did a PhD dissertation on adventure games. She's also quite expert and has worked in Shakespeare, global adaptations of Shakespeare. Fortunately, she was with us at the Trope Tank, my laboratory in MIT, for a while, and worked with me. We also talked with Patsy Badouan in the libraries, who is a collaborator of mine and on other projects. And we put together what was interesting, we thought, but fairly modest exhibit where we would take over some of these computers that might otherwise be used to look up what books are available in the catalog, or check email, or things like this, and we dedicate them to the purpose of only playing video games. So none of this other productive use. Simply use these computers to play video games. And then we connect them. Actually, I brought a copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide that we used. There's a hole that's drilled through it, and we connected it with a cable to the desk, so that just like the medieval situation of having a chained library, you would make sure that no one would walk off with the book or try to check it out or do anything else other than connect it with the exhibit, the video game that was present there. Clara has since gone on to be on the faculty of the NYU Game Center, and her book, Introduction to Game Analysis, is just out from Routledge, so she's been very active in this area. I was grateful to get to work with her, and also to work with the libraries and try to set up a project like this there at MIT. People are very aware of video games and of computing at MIT. They don't need an introduction to that. They don't need to be alerted to the fact that video games exist. But the relationship to other aspects of culture, that they could be situated in a library and that they could connect to projects that are well known in literary history, is not so clear, I think, at MIT or elsewhere. We know about adaptations of games that become books, of plays, of games, of books rather, that become movies. It's very common to see movie adaptations. It's very common that plays are filmed and also made available as movies. We're familiar with adaptations across media in this way. But gaming is still, in the realm of creative computing, it's still a rather new phenomenon. And we have 50 years or so of evidence as to what can be done. The nature of industrial game production, as well as individual and art game production, still in formation even today. So I'll mention a few things about the exhibit. I brought actually some of the flyers from, these are the miniature catalogs from the exhibit at MIT, which I'll offer you. I think we have pretty good coverage of Shakespeare and Sophocles. But I'll mention a little bit about the other two games. The Great Gatsby by Charlie Hoya and Pete Smith, and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is done by Douglas Adams and Steve Marecki. There's some interesting things to note about these games. It's not that unusual for games to be based on other media properties. Certainly we have movies, even some movie franchises that decide to make a video game an integral element of the story that they're trying to tell. And so this is the case with the Matrix trilogy and Enter the Matrix for the Microsoft Xbox, which actually provided an additional chapter of the Matrix trilogy. People came to the theaters not having played the game and were confused about who this new character was that they hadn't seen before. So whether or not that was a tremendously successful element of the Matrix specifically, it was an interesting attempt. It was an idea that we could tell stories across media. There's also telling the same story in different media, and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a great example of that. It's originally not a novel, but a radio play by Douglas Adams, done with the BBC. Since that first incarnation in 1978, it's been developed into many forms, including several movies, most recently a Disney film. The original broadcast, because it contains copyrighted music, actually isn't available and isn't distributed for use. So what we have in the Infocom game, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, later re-released with Rob Ford's graphics by the BBC, and later to become not only a best-selling commercial game, but then a BAFTA award-winning web production. What we have in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a work that crosses cultural boundaries. This is a U.S. production that Doug Adams and Steve Marecki did together, but of course Douglas Adams has a very quirky British piece of humor that he originally presents in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And there's some of these things that I didn't, for years, perhaps decades after first reading the book, even realize were funny, or why they were funny. One of these is the name Ford Prefect, which doesn't really mean anything, but seems to be something that is remarked upon in the book. Is a funny name, of course. In the UK, it's the name of an automobile, which is wrapped up with one of our own US industrialists, Henry Ford. But American readers of the book simply didn't notice that. And so when Douglas Adams came to work with Steve Marecki and create this 1984 production from Infocom, they actually did a lot of innovative things, some of which were very annoying to players. It's not the most beloved game for everyone coming to Infocom's oeuvre. But one of the things that they did is they decided to make narration unreliable in certain ways, so that the game would tell you things were a certain way, and then when you reacted to that and you responded, you'd find that, no, actually, we're just kidding. You have to go back and rethink what you're doing. You have to replay again. It incorporated a lot of the beloved, by that time, beloved scenes from the novel. But it was also, interestingly enough, a collaboration. There's the games that we're looking at in this exhibit, these four, don't represent sort of the massive industrial production of AAA game titles. They're not games from the Grand Theft Auto series, or Call of Duty, or video games that have very large industrial teams. Even something in a more narrative context, something like David Cage's Heavy Rain, right, has a much larger production team behind it, although it has an auteur, director, and creator of the game who's associated with it. The concept that I'm most interested in related to computing is one I call creative computing. And that includes video gaming of the sort that we see. And a project like this that takes the specific category of games and tries to bring it into conversation with the book is an important way, I think, of dealing with creative computing. But I'm also wary of walling off what games do from digital poetry, electronic literature, hobbyist programming, the demo scene, obfuscated code, all sorts of ways that people develop and create for the computer, working on concepts, working on self-expression, working on a variety of approaches to what computing can do. And so games and books, I like them, and they're two great tastes, as we say, that taste great together. But I also think it's important not to give too much emphasis to this category of game. This is one of the things, by the way, since we're celebrating the translation of Espen Orset's cybertext into Polish, this is one of the things that has been very influential and positive about that work, is that it hasn't demanded that we examine games specifically, that of course is done by Espen Orset's journal, Game Studies. But it hasn't, cybertext hasn't made an assertion that games must be separated off from the rest of creative computing. It's rather looked for continuities between hypertext and video gaming, between interactive fiction, chatterbots, other sorts of systems that, deserve to be considered together and that are richly related. And it'd be interesting to do bots by the book as well after something like this. But I think that if you have some time to experience these works and to consider what their take is on their literary textual antecedents that are presented alongside them, you'll see something of the new ways that people are coming to encounter the themes, the subjects, the forms, the materiality, even in some cases, of literature in digital media and works like this. I brought, this is something that is available online, as are these 4 games. But I brought a report that Clara Fernández-Vara did, a technical report she did for the Trope Tank, Electronic Literature for All, Performance in Exhibits and Public Readings. And so Clara also has worked to have something I've been working on for many years, readings, presentations of interactive fiction, specifically most often, but also other types of literary computing projects that are presented in the same style that Dickens read from his novels, or that poets at various venues, at bars and bookstores and libraries present from their work. So I'll hand it, you're welcome to take these or make a note if you want to get a copy of this online. When I go to my local bookstore, which I'm pleased to say is a block away from me, I can walk in and see staff picks. I can talk to the owner or other members of the staff. I can see what's selling well. I can go to the readings that are taking place in that space, and I have every opportunity to learn about literary works. And this is just a small business that's nearby where I live. It's not a huge government-supported operation of some sort. When I go to a library, I find that there's systems and processes in place that thoughtfully take books that people might want to browse through and look at. They might want to take home and read for the weekend, and they separate these. They mark these differently. They put these in a different part of the library for people to peruse and to look at. And of course, there's many other things, the co-location of books, so that when I go to look for one, I can see the ones that are nearby and that are on a similar topic. All of these are things that are supported by the institution of the library. And of course, Another good tactic is to find, if you find, you notice that 2 or 3 books that you have that you really enjoy are by a publisher, then of course you want to go in and look and see what else that publisher has done. What other types of concern has that publisher turned to? What editorial attention has been given, to other works? And you can look for the colophon on the spine of the book, and you can find the work. Well, these are just very ordinary ways that, most all of us who engage with literature, have a chance to learn more about it. We don't have that opportunity in the same way with the wonderful world of creative computing, electronic literature, video gaming that's available for free instantly anywhere that's connected to the internet on Earth. We don't have the same institutions. And one of the things which I'll be working on and talking about during the rest of the festival is that we don't have the support that these traditional institutions give to literary translation and the concern that publishers give to that. So if it's going to happen, it will have to happen through some other non-traditional means. So there's something of an introduction to this exhibit, why I'm excited to see it here. I hope that you are as well, and I hope that you'll get to participate in it. Let me find out if there's questions that I can try to answer about any specifics or the general concept of the exhibit, or books and computational media and video games and electronic literature overall. Yes?
Question. What were the criteria of choice? I was thinking, because of course when we're thinking about Shakespeare and interactive fiction, you could also take Nelson's Tempest, right?
Yes.
You could take Gamlet, which is a bit of a trolling game, but still.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So,
Yeah.
what were your choices? What were your motivations in choosing
Sure.
those?
So, Clara Fernández-Vara, who was the main curator of the exhibit, actually did her own informed version of The Tempest, which is, possibly in part because she thought that Graham Nelson's was lacking.
Yeah.
So we looked at, one of the things that we looked for, we didn't have as a criteria that we want to show you something that's difficult to access or that's not widely available. Obviously, we didn't consider that. There were some works that we thought about one in particular that's rather overexposed. So Dante's Inferno, right, is one that I think it's not without some interesting qualities, actually. It has some problems too. It's not really very good to play, but the gameplay is pretty poor. But it's an interesting. It's interesting in the ways that framing is done.
You mean Mindly or?
No, I mean Dante's Inferno, which actually is a AAA game.
Oh
right.
yeah, Dante.
Yes.
Yeah. Sort of, excluded that by
That's right.
default. Yeah.
No, and we also thought about Mind Wheel. In fact, there's several others, on this flyer that I passed out. Dune, The Dark Eye, Robert Johnson's Hamlet Text Adventure, and another Gambit Game Lab game pertaining to Sophocles are on that list. I think the idea of I think that basing what we exhibit entirely on scarcity is, I don't know, sort of like basing our model of recorded music or text, digital text availability entirely on scarcity.
Right.
There isn't much of it these days. It's sort of scarce.